I'm Derek and I'm a race car driver. It sounds awesome to say that I'm a race car driver. And this weekend is really my first chance as being a professional race car driver. I have a real sponsor and I'm driving for a real team, not just doing it myself or paying to go play. It's the real deal. It's like exactly what I've wished for. So my racing history, I think, really began when I was a young kid. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I would rather watch the Indy 500 than the World Series. I mean, I grew up in a house where it was all about cars, and for me it was all about race cars and fast cars, and that's what I wanted to do one day. It wasn't really until I was married that my wife, Brooke, and I were sitting, lying in bed talking about dreams and aspirations. And she said, "What would you do if you could do anything?" And I said, "I'd drive race cars." And she didn't know that yet, so she signed me up for a racing course. And that's really where it all began. That was 15 years ago. Ironically, that racing course that she sent me to was at Laguna Seca. So we absolutely come full circle this weekend with my first true professional race. The other circular thing going on here is that it was 1 year ago that I met the TRG team at Laguna Seca as a guest of a team, or a guest of a sponsor that I went to go visit. And I stumbled across the TRG team in the paddock. They're hard to miss. They always have a very strong presence, and it's kind of one of those things where it almost seemed too tall of a mountain to go talk to these guys. I mean, they're the #1 team in the paddock, the #1 team in North America and the US for endurance car racing, and known internationally. So I had no idea what I was getting into, and kind of reaching for the stars and walking up to their paddock and asking for the team manager. And that was exactly 1 year ago today at this very race. And now I find myself driving in one of their cars. When I was 6 years old, I would have been playing with cars. I had a pedal Indy car that I would race down our driveway time after time after time, and I figured out that I could lock on the brakes at the end and I'd do donuts, and I did that until I would wear holes in the plastic tires. I think my parents knew that I loved racing. My grandfather raced and my dad raced, and I think it was always something that was a challenge. I mean, racing's hard. It takes sacrifice from work, from your family, from personal time, from free time. So I don't know that that's what they experienced in racing, or if they didn't want me to experience that. It just wasn't really something that was an option as a kid. I don't think it's like it is today either, where there was, today there's go-karting and recreational tracks you can go to, and smaller series and leagues that are almost in every city. We didn't have that back then. I went to a soapbox derby race once. My dad was a drag racer. They sat me down in one of the cars. I was really young. I couldn't even see over the top of the car, and they all looked away, and apparently I released the brakes, and I did my first soapbox derby run. First and only, I think, but I wasn't supposed to, and I made it to the end. I didn't crash or anything. It was cool. Ever since my first test with TRG, even the emails building up to that test when I was finally communicating with team owner Kevin Buckler, we just kept uncovering that we had a lot of things in common. We both grew up with alternative sports backgrounds. He was a professional in the snow skiing world. I was a professional wakeboarder. Turns out that we both still, to this day, continue to spend a lot of time on the water. He's got 3 daughters, I've got 3 daughters. They spend their time vacationing in places that we vacation, and just a lot of really similar things going on. He's a self-proclaimed wine nerd, just like I am, so we enjoy getting together over a glass of wine. He's just got a really cool thing going on. Ever since I met him, and whether I was visiting his home or the race shop or the wine business, it's like a kid in a candy store. I mean, you got the coolest race cars and race shop on this side, and a world-class winery on this side, and a really, really cool guy, and just a really cool family. So there's been a lot more than just the racing that's made this a really unique and cool opportunity. As far as getting to this point, I think there's been a lot of things working for me that I never would have had my eyes open to 5 years ago, or let alone 10 years ago. Both spirituality-wise, prayerful work, also working with a life coach who has helped me to feel more comfortable with expressing dreams and desires, whether it's putting them on paper, verbalizing them, saying to the universe or to the God that you pray to, or just out loud in general what it is that you want. And it truly feels like ever since I started doing that, doors kept opening. And you know, my wife Brooke also has really helped me to open my eyes to not limiting possibilities. I think a lot of times I've limited myself or limited what options there are out there just with thought that was saying, oh, well, that's what other people get to do. You know, other people get to be professional race car drivers. People that don't live in Medford, Oregon get to be professional race car drivers. She's helped me to think more limitlessly, where those barriers don't have to be there. And literally, once I removed those barriers and started thinking like this can happen and continuing down the path, it has. I also think that there's a lot of confidence that comes from having belief from a team like TRG Aston Martin Racing, and Kevin and Bob and Kenneth and everybody there genuinely feeling like they want you to be a part. I mean, that is hugely confidence building and kind of inspiring to make you push harder, to help push doors open and walk through them. I've formed some incredible friendships and relationships from the team, both you know, business-wise and sponsor-wise, but then just also great close personal friends, co-drivers, other members of the team. I've met David Block, who's one of the drivers, and we've really hit it off. We've done a couple of events together, and him and his wife are fantastic, and I think those will become lifelong relationships. My co-driver for this race, James Davison, it's a real honor to get to drive with him. I mean, this is a guy that I'll be watching on television racing Indy cars, and he's a part of my team, not just a part of my team, but my co-driver for this race at Laguna Seca. My first and basic part of the strategy is just showing up with open ears and an open mind, because that's another thing that TRG does so well. They are going to very clearly tell me exactly what they want me to do. What is my role this weekend? You know, the format of these races is to have an amateur and a professional in the car. James is the professional and I get to be the amateur this weekend, so it's really my job to be as competitive as I can be without crossing over that line and getting the team or the car into trouble, and handing a clean car over to James and letting him close the deal. And James is very fast. He's a smart, good driver. I'm very fast. I'm a smart, good driver, so I think together we have a really good chance of putting the Aston on the podium this weekend. A couple really cool things going on this weekend. What really put it together was the meeting of a new sponsor that I'm going to be working with for the balance of the year in the GT4 Challenge Series. Black Rider Holdings, the Black Rider Racing Group, and they are helping to get me into the car for this weekend. We've only met over the phone so far, so we get to meet in person this Thursday in Monterey, so I'm absolutely thrilled about the opportunity that they're helping to put me into. It's also an important race because I have a very close friend who has for a little over 2 years now been in the battle of his life, fighting stage 4 colon and liver cancer. So we are honoring him this weekend, you know, by placing his ribbon and the We Fight for Greg campaign on the car, and hopefully he can make it. He's always wanted to be at one of my races, but he's having some challenges right now, so he may not. But we'll stay in touch as the weekend goes, keep him posted, and he'll get to watch it on TV at least. So it's fun to get to be doing this in his honor, and I know that he takes a lot of pride in seeing that ribbon on the car, and I know that I do too. So, and you know, we're also trying our best to do what we can with this huge platform in racing, and the people that we get in front of. The Hearts and Vines Foundation is a nonprofit that's very close to my heart, and I've served on their board. I've been president of the board, and we've tried to raise awareness for that group through racing, and we've offered sponsorship positions on the car that money directly goes back to the Hearts and Vines Foundation. Gamerosity is another one that we're working with, and they help to give kids that are in their fight against cancer some of the other stuff that they don't get through their health insurance, kind of the fun needs that kids have. You know, these are kids that are sitting through the same rounds of chemotherapy that Greg has been doing, that maybe don't have the means to have an iPod so that they can listen to some music that they want to listen to, or a video game to help pass those long hours and the drives back and forth to the Dornbecker Institute or up to OHSU or whatever it is that they're having to do, stuff that normal kids don't have to do. Gamerosity helps supply them the fun needs. The plan for this year is interesting. It's interesting to be going into maybe one of the biggest races of the year first, but that's where the opportunity came, so that's what we're doing. And I absolutely feel prepared. Thankfully, I belong to a fantastic gym, CrossFit The Den. Austin Stack is my trainer there, and he helps keep me in shape physically, mentally, and I've been training. I've had lots of testing sessions with TRG, so as far as being in the car, I feel absolutely ready. So we're going to go tackle this really big race. Our first meeting with the Black Rider Racing Group, whose intent is to sponsor me for the balance of the season in the GT4 Challenge Series. So all of that has been kind of designed and building up to next year, though, because the big goal is to find myself in the 24 Hours of Daytona and have a chance to win one of those Rolex watches. To race in the Rolex 24-hour Daytona has absolutely been a life goal. You know, it's one of the biggest races in the world. People come from everywhere to race it, and I want to see myself in that race. I want to be a part of Aston Martin and TRG, getting back on the podium, having a chance at another victory in that race. They've won it before. This next year would be the second time that they've run it with the Aston Martin, and I would like to be there for it, behind the wheel. I want to say thank you to everybody that's been any part of my life that's helped me to get here. I mean, the names and the people are numerous, but everybody that I've met, my mother, my father, my wife, my kids, my business partners have all given me a piece of who I am and what I am, and helped to open doors for me to get here. And it certainly takes a lot from a lot of people. The hours that the team puts in is incredible, and everybody works so hard for this 2.5 hours that's coming up on Saturday. And it's amazing to think of all these people doing that for me to get to go race a car. It's pretty humbling. I'm thankful to have the opportunity. So thank you. I'm Derek DeBoer. I'm a race car driver, and I'm here to prove that dreams can come true.
Chop chop!
Ha 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 ha!